Hi, everyone. Welcome to our April 2023 Fifth Window Nurse Spotlight. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Charlene Platon. I am CEO and co-founder of Fifth Window, and we host these monthly spotlights to share more about nurses and their diverse journeys in nursing, and also to share and highlight their well-being journeys. And so for today's spotlight, we will be able to screen questions and comments that come through during the conversation. And this is a live stream conversation. So if you have questions and you're tuning in from YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, feel free to drop a comment or a question, and we'll do our best to answer your question and respond to your comments. And so first, I'd like to go ahead and start this conversation by introducing our Fifth Window team. So you've met me, but we'll go ahead and also bring forward Michael. So Michael, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everybody. My name is Michael Horn. I am a full stack app developer. I'm the lead developer on the Fifth Window app, which has been just a super exciting journey. And I'm also really happy to be talking to Farah today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael. And so now we're really honored to introduce our April 2023 Spotlight guest, Farah Laurent. Farah is a nurse career coach. She is the proud founder of Farah Laurent International Nurse Coach LLC and offers top-notch career guidance to ensure that nurses level up and land their dream specialty position. She is a certified badass with 6 board certifications and holds a master's in nursing education. Farah has held various positions in the emergency department, education and leadership at the director level in both Canada and the United States. And Farah has coached over 50 nurses to land their dream positions and live their best life. Thank you so much for joining us today, Farah.
Thank you so much, Charlene and Michael. I'm so excited to be here, and I've been following, this for a while, so I'm honored to be here as a guest. So, hello, everybody. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, and we're so excited to have you here too. We know that you've been part of our Fifth Window community for some time, and it's just very exciting to meet with you today and talk with you and learn more about your work. So we'll be able to dive right in. And I just wanted to start because, the topic of nurse career coaching is so interesting to me. And I want to first know what inspired you to become a nursing career coach, and how did you get started in this field?
Sure. So, for those who have been following me, I know we're on different platforms, but LinkedIn is where I really share a lot of my stories. And I always tell the story about when I was in nursing school in Canada. I had a clinical instructor that literally told me that I would never be an ER nurse. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that's my dream. Like, she's crushing my dream. So in my head, I was like, okay, watch me, lady. I will be an ER nurse, right? And I'm going to be one of the baddest ER nurses around, and no one's going to stop me. So I always had that mindset of like, if you want something, go for it, and don't listen to any negativity. Because a lot of new grads are told you have to go into med surg, and there's this very narrow type of narrative about nursing. But the beauty about nursing is that you could do so many things. So in nursing school, you're not exposed to all that. So that's why it kind of drove me to do nurse career coaching, to open up the eyes of different nurses to different opportunities, and to not listen to negativity, and to really empower them to pursue whatever it is that they want, whether it's in the hospital, outpatient, whether it's something that's unconventional, like starting their own business as a nurse entrepreneur. That's why I started what I did, because I didn't have someone like me when I first started as a nurse. And I didn't really get into mentorship, meaning seeking out mentors, until much later in my career. And then I thought, oh my goodness, like they need me, right? Like, so I'm basically today what I needed back then. So that's why I started my nurse career coaching business. And I hesitated for a while because I was so busy. Obviously, we're all busy. I was working full time. My kids were a lot younger. Right now, they're 2 and 6. I was also in school in a doctoral program, which I'm just finishing up now. So doctoral program full time, and 2 kids. I was like, like, should I add more to my plate? And I was like, well, I got to do this because I felt like there's a need and I wanted to create impact and help these nurses and give them encouragement and hope, because a lot of times they feel like they're not enough, they can't do it. And I'm like, yes, you can, right? Like, you got this. So that's how I basically started this business in June. It was June 21st of 2021. So that's kind of when I first started. Right.
That's amazing. And I do want to say there are a lot of stories I've heard similar to what you mentioned with, professors or mentors or different people who we have encountered in our nursing journey saying that, you will never be XYZ. It's
Yeah.
surprisingly a very unfortunately common story. And I've had that experience myself with people saying, you're not going to be a fit for this or that. They're trying to, they try to put you in a certain box with an assumption that they have about who you are and your journey. And I continue to hear that actually just from my nursing aspiring, my friends who are aspiring nurses and people who want to go to graduate school too, they still hear the same story. So I feel really inspired just by what you shared and just very grateful that you sought that path because, we need more guidance than you can't do this.
Exactly, right? And we need like more positivity in nursing. And that's what I try to bring to the nursing community, because yes, there are issues. Yes, there are things that can be improved, but that's any industry. But I always promote nursing and try to promote it in a positive image and a positive light, because it is the best profession in the world. Like, I'm a little biased, but it is. Like, what profession can you be in that you could literally do anything you want? Like, you could work on a cruise ship, you could work for United Nations, like you could travel. Like, possibilities are endless. Like, I had a friend when I worked in the ER, she worked at the Bronx Zoo, like seriously, as a nurse. Like, you could do whatever you want.
Wow.
I'm telling you. So that's why I'm always trying to push that positivity. I do talk about like some real, life things of how they can navigate and transition from nursing school to practice and facilitate that transition with like, real talk, like this is real nursing. But I try to, keep a positive light, because I feel like there's too much sometimes negativity out there. And I'm like, just trying to be positive and lift up and empower, our nurses, especially our younger generation of nurses.
Yeah, definitely hear you. And I'm wondering too, if I'm a nurse or an aspiring nurse, what would be the best time for me to seek a nurse career coach? And, what would not be considered the best time to, to reach out to a nurse career coach like yourself?
So I think honestly, there's no bad time, right? I've had conversations with nursing students where we just did consultations, and I typically offer about 15-minute consultations where they just maybe just want to hear a little bit more about my services and see what direction kind of they should be going to. And it's never too early to plan out your nursing career. And is it okay to just like, maybe if you're just not sure, you just want to explore, that's fine too. But if you're very ambitious and you want to end up here, like whatever your end goal is, then that's fine to start planning out in nursing school. I actually did a post recently on LinkedIn about really the power of volunteering and how it's like a win-win situation. So maybe if you want to be a NICU nurse or maybe labor and delivery, whatever area you want to be into, or public health, whatever, seek out to be a volunteer there, right? Especially in the organization that maybe you want to end up in, that your values align with their values. Because if you're already in the organization, you're already one foot in the door. You're meeting people. So it's going to reaffirm, like, do I want to work here? You're going to start establishing relationships. You're going to learn on the job. And HR is already going to have your stuff in their system, because, you typically have to do like, paperwork and documents. So it's like, it'll be such an easy transition. And then you could just market yourself and say, hey, I'm a nursing student. I'm interested in this and this. Do you think you'll have an opening next year when I graduate, or whatever it is? Like, you're just positioning yourself for success and an easy transition when you volunteer to just go right into these positions.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And And, I'm curious to know if if you could share a little bit about how you typically work with nurses or clients who come to you, and if they're interested in advancing their career because they may not know where to start. I've had nursing friends or aspiring nurses come to me and they really are not sure what's out there. But do you have a specific kind of method or framework that you work with your different clients?
Yeah, so I mean, typically we start out with a consultation call, and I guess I'll share this one recent client that I worked with. She was an ICU nurse and was getting really experienced ICU nurse, and she was getting a little burnt out, and she didn't have the best experience when she was transitioning to a new role. So she actually, without divulging, nobody's gonna know who it was, but she quit her job, and she felt kind of guilty because she's like, well, I didn't have anything lined up, but she just couldn't take it anymore. And that's where I know we'll get into wellness later. But it's so important, like mental health and loving what you do and aligning with your purpose and values is so important. And I don't want anyone to feel like they're burnt out and that they just have to quit. So if there's anybody out there, I don't want them to get to that point. So when they reach out to me, they could book a clarity call. It's an hour call with me, and we literally just go through all the things, which is like for her. So I had a little bit of experience in simulation before. So there's like this phrase that I got from them, which is like emotion before cognition. So if I do a needs assessment, right, of the actual client, like what are their needs, and I prioritize what we need to go through. So it's like, the nursing process almost that you can apply to it. So what are their needs? And if I could tell that they're really emotional, meaning like they have to talk about what happened, why did she quit? What were her emotions? Like what was she going through? And clear that out of the way, then they can have a little bit more clarity as to like, all right, what are your options? Let's go through it and really prioritize what are your biggest wants, right? It's like whatever the client needs in that season of their life, right? Because it's going to change. So she happened to have kids. That was a priority of like timing and things like that. So we really go through what it is. Is it money that's your priority? Is it a particular organization you want to work for? Or is it the commute? Like, do you just want to have an easy commute? Like, and that's kind of what we go through and prioritize what their needs are. And then we go through options and, a little bit more other frameworks that we use. But that's really the strategy that I use, is really doing a needs assessment and prioritizing what those needs are and helping them guide them with, what their skill set is and what they can transition to easily. So for her, we kind of talked about it in ICU, like you could pretty much work anywhere. And she had like some insurance background and she was looking into remote work. So we kind of explored that a little bit of, what she could do, like possibly go into same day surgery, go into PACU or whatever. So she can have a little bit more flexibility in her schedule.
Yeah,
So that's
that's fantastic.
in a nutshell, like an example. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great example. I know that there's a lot of different scenarios that you might encounter with nurses in different stages of their careers. And do you have any other examples of, maybe success stories or other nurses that you've encountered who were able to achieve their career goals working with you?
Yeah, so I have a few stories, but I'll share this one because I think it's very interesting. So she actually did a video on my website. So my website launched April 7th. It's nursefarah.com. So I have a testimonial from her, a written testimonial. So her name is Rihanna, and she's actually from California. So she came to me and she was hesitant because she's like, well, I don't know if I can afford your services, but I really want to work with you. She wanted like interview coaching and help with that. So of course I worked with her and I was like, well, I could, we could work that out. That's no problem. And I offer payment plans. So we were able to work together because she was a new graduate nurse. So her main concerns was her lack of confidence. She felt like she wanted to work in the like ICU setting. She's like, well, I don't know if I can get there, if I'm enough. But she really wanted to get into a residency at Stanford. And she said, it's really competitive. I don't know if I can get in because my GPA is a little bit low. So I said, listen, don't worry about that. let's work together, because a lot of what we work on is mindset. So we worked on that, and she became more confident as we worked together. And when she went to her interview, we worked on something that I call her power pitch, like power pitch of the interview, of where you really, it's like your elevator pitch type thing. And it's like, tell me about yourself. And then we go through it. And it's a structured way that I have the clients answer. So she felt so confident. She killed it. And it's like they almost didn't have a lot of questions for her. And I typically tell them to infuse their personality to stand out. So her story was that she volunteered as an EMT, and she loved singing, and she used to go to concerts and volunteer as an EMT. So she talked about her passion for singing and then helping people and volunteering, and that's what led her to nursing. And then guess what? Later on in the interview, they asked her to sing. So they asked her to sing, and then they asked her to sing a Rihanna song, and her name happened to be Rihanna.
Wow.
But she actually sang, I think, a Rihanna song, and I think, or maybe I think she sang Halo by Beyonce as well. So I was like, she called me later, and I was like, you got the job. And I was like, there's no way. She's like, you think so? I'm like, you got the job. I'm like, you made the connection. They love you. You got the job. So like, I think she got the offer. I think it might've been the same day. I think she got a same day offer from unheard of typically. So
amazing.
Yeah, that was like a big success story. And then another one was L&D, labor and delivery, because it's tough to get into. This one nurse just was giving up. She's like, well, I don't think I'm going to get in. And she was in New York, a new grad. And I'm like, look, no, you're going to get it. It's just a matter of timing. We worked together, and she was looking for months. She couldn't get in. And then finally, she landed her interview, because we worked through different strategies of how to really, put yourself out there. Instead of just like sending a resume, you have to have like a more strategic way to apply in your job search. So that's what we did. She connected with a manager, and she killed it, and she got her job offer within like, I think 2 days. And she's working in L&D as a new grad. So it is possible. And she's actually on the website. She has a video. Her name is Jessica.
So, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
I love it. Because like anytime they call me and they're like, I got the job, and I'm like, yay. And it's like, I feel like it was me when they called me when I got my job in the ER. Like I got my job before I even graduated. So it's like the same thing. I feel like I got the job again. Like I get so excited for them. Yeah. So.
Oh, I love that. And I know how hard it is to get into nurse residency programs. Mm-hmm. It's very competitive, and that really speaks to the guidance that you're able to provide, because a lot of the time they have everything that they need to really be successful in the interview, but they just need to know what to focus on. They really need to know who they are as an individual and why they're pursuing their specific specialty or career in nursing. Mm-hmm. So that is really great advice. And I'm curious to know, what are some common challenges that nurses face when they try to advance their careers, and how do you help them overcome those types of obstacles?
So whether it's a new graduate nurse or an experienced nurse, it all goes back to confidence. A lot of nurses, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of nurses lack confidence. Some of them also lack clarity. They're not sure what direction to go in. And then the third thing is, which kind of goes with confidence, is mindset. Their mindset is not really where it should be. And sometimes there's this negativity. It's this like self-negative talk, or how we say like self-limiting beliefs. It's like, well, I don't know, can I do that? Almost like imposter syndrome, right? And like me, I was somebody who was always ambitious, always wanting to get the next thing, like hence why I have 6 certifications, right? And some nurses—
Yeah, we need to talk about that too.
Right. Like some nurses, like one of my clients, she has an MBA, And, you know, we're talking about in the future, she wants to start her own business, but, you know, now we're working through some things. And she's like, well, do you think I need another like certification in business? I'm like, you have your MBA, like you're good. You don't need another certification. So I almost feel like, and I had this problem, that we're always seeking more to get validation. Like, oh, are we good enough? Like, you do need skills, and your skills are going to help you. You know, for example, if you're a new nurse wanting to get into ICU, of course, should you get ACLS? Of course, right? If you want to go to the NICU, should you get NRP? Yeah. Those things are going to set you up for success. But mindset is, do you truly believe that you're going to get this position? Because I would say like 90% of the nurses don't truly believe that they'll get the position. So, of course, when you go to the interview, you're not going to exude that confidence, and you're like so hesitant in the way you speak, and it just like, it's all over you. So I always talk about this, like you have to believe down to like your cellular level, that I'm going to get this position, I'm the right fit, and that's it. Like when I talk about being a badass nurse, like you got to go after what you want, and that's it. And I'm like, you got this, right? So it's mindset, it's confidence, how they present themselves, personal branding, all that stuff. Because I just feel like nurses do not sell themselves well. They don't know how to promote themselves. Not all, but a good majority. Or they're very humble. You know, they're like, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging about myself. And I'm like, you do. You got to brag. You're in the interview. All right. Because if you don't, Nurse Susie over there is going to brag, and she's going to get it. Right. So I have this thing that I say, it's like my brag and swag method, where you really have to brag and like show up with your swagger, like literally your personal brand.
Yes.
Your packaging, it has to be right. And that's it. And you're going to slay and get the job. That's it.
I love that. Brag and swag. Yes, absolutely. And I think that when you can do that like successfully, it really shows through. I mean, I've conducted a lot of interviews myself, and it always stands out when someone is able to really own those two components and really own who they are, and, you know, shine through with their personality, and they really are clear about what their vision and mission is, and it makes a huge difference, I have to say, in the interview process. And what you said too about the mindset, that's so important, because a lot of the time, I mean, we don't learn about that in nursing school.
Right.
We don't learn about how to be a badass in our mindset.
Exactly, right? But you know, that's what you got to do. You got to have that mindset. And that's just anywhere, right? In life. Like people who have that right mindset, or they shift their perspective, are the ones that are most successful. And the ones that are most confident, or the ones that could promote and articulate their value, are the ones that are going to be successful. And actually, somebody posted something on LinkedIn recently. It's another career coach, and she's in Canada. But she posted, I forgot the person who did it. She posted like why most people get promoted, right? And it's like, I forgot the guy's name, but it's like a pie chart. And I remember as PI as an acronym. So 10% is performance, right? Is P. And the I is image. It's, I think I wrote it down. Hold on. What was 30%? Where the heck did I put it? I don't remember. I think it's, 30% image, which is personal branding and all that. And 60% exposure, meaning visibility, meaning are you going to, you know, people joke about this, like how, you know, a lot of guys get promoted, like older guys, like going around drinking whiskey and going golfing, right? Because that's what it is. They're going golfing with the CEO or whoever. They're going out to like consistently after work, like, oh, let's go for a drink or let's go eat. So they get to know everybody in the organization, which is that visibility and connecting with others. But really only 10% of your work, your performance, is really what gets you promoted. Everything else is perception. and can you do the job, right? So I thought that was amazing.
Right.
I'm going to use that all the time now, which is time method, right? Because it's so true. Like, and people get upset, and it's like, and I was like that in the ER. I wasn't getting promoted because I was so passionate. I would always advocate, but it was taken the wrong way. And I think the way I was delivering my message, it was perceived the wrong way because I was so passionate about advocating for patients and whatever. And this is what I want to tell nurses out there. Like, if you feel that you're not progressing in your current position, or you're not being given the opportunity to get promoted, because I applied so many times to so many things where I had the most qualifications, and Lord knows I had all the certifications, right? Like being an ER educator, like one of my managers told me I didn't have the soft skills to be an ER manager. And I mean, an ER educator. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, and honestly, you know, I'm not gonna get into it, but there is favoritism and all this and things that happen. But when you see that you're not progressing and it's just not happening, guess what? You just got to leave. So then this is what I always say. I'm like, you just got to take your talents to South Beach like LeBron, right? Just leave and go, because you're not going to grow, right? So that's like my biggest advice. If you feel like you're being blocked, go somewhere else.
Right.
Because you don't want to waste time.
Exactly. And there was a lot that you mentioned there that I think is really important to unpack for nurses, because first they have to know who they are. They have to be able to also, with that visibility piece, it's so important. It really ties in with the importance of networking. And I know we also don't learn about networking in nursing school, and but it's a skill. It's a skill. It doesn't come naturally, right? It's a skill you have to develop. It takes you out of your comfort zone to actually seek those events, especially now. I think it's harder even now that we've been in this virtual world for so long, and then going back into that very in-person world where you're building these in-person connections, it's even harder. But that extra step will take you so much farther.
Just to add to that, sorry, like, so what I used to think, I had this issue in the ER. I was just like, patient care and safety and advocate and da-da-da. And then, like, in my head, I was thinking almost like, if you network, or I looked at it like a negative, like almost like you're sucking up, right? So my perception was a little off. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be one of those people that suck up to the manager or suck up to leadership or whatever. But that's not what it is. It's like, you just have to play the game, and that's just life, right? It's like, if you don't play the game, you're not going to be, you're not going to be able to win. And that's just what it is. You just have to change that perception and just look at it like you're building relationships and connections. And if it's something that's not in alignment with what you believe, or, the organization just is not a good fit, then you just have to leave and go somewhere else, right? And that's, just what I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, not all environments will be the best fit, and so that goes for the people in the organizations that you're looking at. It also factors in the supervisor that you have. I mean, it factors into the opportunities that are available at the organization. So there's a lot at play to make the decision of where you want to work. And we might not know the first time, and that's totally normal. We might have to find a few opportunities before we really find the one that really resonates with who we are. And that's so important to keep in mind for nursing. And I do want to switch gears a little bit to talk about wellness, because it's so important. And I believe that we don't talk about professional well-being enough in nursing too, just adding to the list of the things that we, these important skills that we could have in nursing. But I want to know, what does professional well-being mean to you first and foremost?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So to me, I feel like I just can't separate the two. So I would say wellness is just wellness, right? So that's just the way I think about it. Because if you're not well in your own personal life, it's going to translate into your professional life, right? So I almost feel like it's together. But then professionally, you also have to be in the right fit, again, in the right environment, right organization, doing what it is that you love and that you're passionate about. Because if you don't, then it's not going to be, you're not going to feel well, right? You're not going to be in alignment with your purpose, your values. I know it sounds all like cliche, but it's true. Like if you are a new grad and you want to work in the NICU with babies, and somebody told you that you can't, you have to go to med surg and work with adults, you're probably not going to be happy. And you're probably not going to, right, feel excited to go to work. And it's going to translate in other areas like of your personal life. So I feel like in both ends, you have to get what you want professionally to be happy and well. And also in your personal life, you have to do things that will also make you the best you as a nurse, right? Because we know, that we're always giving constantly as nurses, especially those who give direct patient care. But even if you don't, even if you're in leadership or whatever, it could still be, any industry can put a toll on you. But we know for nursing, it's one of the higher stress positions and stress jobs. So for me, I think it's important to know what your outlet is, right? Like, what are the things that help you kind of maintain that wellness for you? And that could be different things for different people.
Right, exactly. I really love how you phrase it because professional well-being, people they might not think about that, or nurses might not think about it, but there are a few components there that really make it up, and there's a lot more that goes into your wellness in your career than it might seem on the surface.
Mhm.
And you did mention how nursing is it is a stressful job. It's a difficult job, and it's really easy to get burnt out. And do you have any ways that you approach, challenges with burnout, or especially for the clients that you see who might be feeling burnt out during this whole process? Anything to share there with how you might advise a nurse who's burnt out?
Yeah, so this is one thing, and I know that sometimes in nursing school, again, it may not be touched upon. I know some schools are probably starting to introduce it. I know there's Bernadette Melnick, who does she's a researcher who does a lot of things with new graduate nurses and wellness and creating healthy work environments. And then another person too, Renee Thompson, I think is her name. And she's actually a member of the NNBA. I'm also a member of the NNBA, which is the National Nurses and Business Association, which we can get into later. But I feel like these people are also impacting nursing in a way that you should look at best practices and what's out there, but also what works best for you. And I'm actually in a doctoral program now, and I had to switch my topic several times, but I created a toolkit which was accepted by IRB. Yay! A toolkit, a toolkit for stress reduction strategies in nurses. So there's a lot of things. So music, I would say, is number one for me. And I think a lot of people love music. Like, who doesn't love music? So there's research that says like just listening to 30 minutes of music a week can help reduce stress. Like physiologically, like your pressure gets lowered, blah, blah, blah. Like there's research, right? So music. So if you listen to music every day, that can be helpful. I used to do that when I was on break in the ER. I would put my headphones on, listen to music, or I would remove myself from the break room, because we all know what happens in the break room sometimes is a lot of chatter and gossip and drama. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this. Let me take myself outside for a walk, or just, remove yourself from that. Because we know if you're working direct patient care, sometimes there's like no windows, there's no sunlight. If you're working night shift, you don't even get to really see the sun. I know you guys are in California, so you maybe get a little more than, say the East Coast, right? But you need to get outside, right? Whether it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes on break. And even when you're at home, try to get out there, walk, obviously activity, things like that. But another big piece, I think, is support, right? Social support, specifically from other nurses, because nurses understand nurses best. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like when I first started nursing, it's like, obviously I wouldn't divulge any like confidential stuff, but I would go home and like, oh, listen, like, da 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 da, and then like people are tired of listening to you, like they don't want to hear that. So I'm like, okay, they don't understand. I was like, let me go talk to my friend nurses who know, because you connect better, right? And same thing in my doctoral program. Like if I didn't have my colleagues to help me through, that support is just huge, right? Or doing things like debriefing after something happens when you're working. So there's so many things, but you just have to do what works best for you and find that out, right? But things like, I think like back-to-back shifts, like when I worked in Canada, they wouldn't let us work more than 4 shifts in a row. But
Really?
yeah, like 12-hour shifts. It was like
Is
a
that
rule
a
of the
national kind of
hospital.
rule, or?
It was just that hospital. We couldn't
Oh,
work. Like,
wow.
you could work 4 12s, but you'd have to take a break if you wanted to work more. So I don't know. I know there's things in like health policy and things, but I just feel like there needs to be a little bit more awareness with mental health and just even just wellness in general, and find out what your organization has, because sometimes it's just Nurses Week. They'll have different events or different things, but you might get discounts for massages or things like that, because I know I love a good massage. I try to go like monthly, right? Or getting your nails
Yes.
done, whatever it is, watching a movie. Like there's so many things. So find out what your organization offers. And then to touch back with interviewing, I know I'm all over the place because I get excited, but in your interview, you're interviewing your employer. So the interview experience should really tell you a lot. If you're made to if you feel uncomfortable during the interview process, you're not connecting well with your direct, whoever you're going to be reporting to, you're just not vibing already there. That's like a lot of red flags. Like you probably shouldn't go in there because it's probably going to be a toxic work environment. But wellness, there's so many things you can do. I know it's a lot, but
No, that's great. I love it. And I do, and I'm really grateful that you mentioned the interview process, and because you could actually use that to evaluate the state of well-being in the organization that you're talking to. It just brought me back to one of my first experiences when I was interviewing as a new grad.
yeah.
And I asked the nurse manager who was interviewing me, what's the turnover rate in your department? And she wouldn't tell me. And I was like, oh, that's probably not good.
It's probably
Yeah.
high.
It's probably high. So that I took that as a sign, and I think it was the right choice.
Right, because we know that most nurses leave multiple reasons, but like staffing, or typically it's like poor leadership or whatever, or lack of structure in the organization. Like their orientation is not good. They don't give enough support for nurses. Like, so you'll find that out during your interview. And also just like the culture of the unit. So if they ask you to get a tour of the unit, you should even ask, like, hey, can I just get a quick tour of the unit? And that would speak volumes. Like if you walk around the unit and nobody's saying hello to you, they're not acknowledging you, like, that might be a red flag.
Yeah, that's so true. Definitely great advice to ask for a tour if they don't offer it immediately, or just, if they do offer it, to take up that opportunity no matter what. I think you could really understand the culture a lot just from everything that's nonverbal, right? Just seeing all those cues, and then just seeing how people interact with each other, and just, are they supportive? Are they speaking in a way that's really collaborative, communicative, or is it really like top down, so it's really interesting to see.
And there's one more. Sorry.
Yeah.
Even like if you're not in an interview, this is just the way I think. Like you can literally just go to the hospital and go to their cafeteria and like walk around, like see how people interact and whatever. Like, you know what I mean?
Very true.
What the conversations are like you could find out a lot, you know what I mean? So if you want to do, because you have to do your homework and research, because you don't want to be there and be stuck for a year and like not love it. But the opposite is true. Like if they're welcoming and they have a structured orientation, they can speak to it, they have a mentorship program, blah, blah, blah. Like you're like, okay, you know, you'll have a better, you know, experience. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Those are really important questions. And I've been in interviews where the candidate doesn't ask any questions. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, you really have to ask, you really have to ask because you're interviewing the organization just as much
Right.
as they're interviewing you. And it goes both ways to see if it's the correct fit, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And you have a lot of power in that situation to be able to know what you have to know
Mm-hmm.
to make sure it's the right fit. So really appreciate you mentioning that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to ask too for your own, for your own well-being, do you have any way that you define your own self-care or, is there anything I know that you mentioned music. Is there other things that you do for your own self-care?
Yeah. So anybody that knows me knows that I love music. So I'm always like breaking out into song or something. But like I used to love going to concerts all the time. It's kind of hard with like the little ones now, but going to concerts, music, um, dancing, comedy. I love watching stand-up comedy, things like that. And massages. I mentioned massages. That's huge for me. And then just like little things like going to get your hair done or nails. And then really outside, just even taking a walk outside. I probably should, I don't really work out as much as I'm just being transparent. I should probably work out more because when I do, I feel better. But, you know, that's probably something that I could improve on. But walking and stuff would be it because I just feel like you're just being outside, even for like 15 to 30 minutes, can really improve your mood. So I think that's one of my favorite things to do. And then obviously vacation. I love to travel. So like going on a beach or wherever is what I look forward to. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I enjoy massages a lot myself, music, all those things are great. And, for nurses who are maybe new to practice, and maybe haven't yet really been able to see what wellness means to them, do you have any advice for them for, how they could maintain their wellness or their professional wellness and then just their overall wellness?
Yeah, so I think they just have to do a deep dive to see what it is that they like to do and what's enjoyable to them. So I think the biggest thing, honestly, is just asking for time off, right? And this is what irritates me with some organizations. I just have to be real, like some organizations, and this is when you know that you're part of a good organization or not. So if the organization encourages you to take time off and says, hey, listen, you have a lot of PTO or blah blah blah, or like maybe you should take your, like take some time off or that, like that's when you know, like, hey, this is where I should be. But then the other organizations that are like have like a crazy like 6 month probation where you can't even take vacation, like, which I've been a part of that. It's crazy. Like in that you have to like beg for time off. That's a sign of a toxic workplace. So avoid that, but take your time, right? Even if I'm not trying to tell people to call out sick, but you might have to call out sick. Right? Like mental health day, like whatever. It's very important. Like all jokes aside, like there's nurses that are out there and physicians that are committing suicide of like because of all these, it's so overwhelming. So don't worry about your organization. If you take time off, like it's normal. We need to normalize taking time off. Okay. Let people take their time off. So that's like my little rant there. Um, Even if you're
Mhm.
just sitting at home watching TV, watching movies, sleep. Okay.
Yes.
Sleep is so
Mhm.
underrated. Like I have 2 kids and it's like all I want to do is just sleep sometimes. And that's like your self-care, especially for the people that are working long shifts, right? It's tough. So I think sleep, literally getting outside, talking to people, like similar things that I kind of mentioned, and even little things like taking breaks throughout the day, wherever you work,
Right.
whether you work in a hospital, wherever, taking little breaks, like you could take a 5-minute break, take a walk somewhere, or stretching. Like just stretching would be helpful. And again, it sounds like silly, but deep breathing. So even taking a couple breaths, like I do this with my kids sometimes, like, okay, take a deep breath, like take a couple of deep breaths, like already you start feeling like you're reducing your anxiety, whatever. So I think normalizing these things and not just doing it when you feel stressed, but do it on a regular basis and make it part of your routine. And I know it's like just me talking, because like a lot of stuff I don't even, I'm still struggling with, but we just have to do our best. So these little things can go a long way. Yeah.
I agree. And I do want to mention with normalizing mental health days, I can't stress enough how important that is. If you do have a supervisor who actually encourages time off, you should 100% be with that supervisor.
Exactly. Like, I
It's
don't understand.
very,
Like, I'm not going to get into too much, but this is my other thing with leadership. Like, when I used to be the director of education for a hospital, and it's a long story. I got laid off eventually, which was crazy, but I was like, okay, that's another story. But some of the educators that I worked with, it was like a Friday, and they're like, hey, can I leave an hour early? Yes, go ahead. You can leave. Because like things like that, you're going to get more productive employees or like, colleagues, because you're encouraging that type of, it's like you're just building rapport, you trust your team. And it's like this micromanaging, like what is that going to get you? And if you're like, oh, you got to be here at this minute and leave at this minute, like they talk about quiet quitting and that, do you think they're motivated to like do the work? No. But if you're like telling them, sure, take vacation, they're going to come back like refreshed, like ready to go. I don't understand. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, I don't get it.
And they would want to come back to work because they know that their leader actually supports their wellness. And that's something that's been really personally something that I look for, and that's been really important to me myself. And I do want to mention too, with what you mentioned about taking time off from mental health days or just sick days or just taking the time off that you need. I know when I was at the bedside, when I would ask for time off, I would always be made to feel guilty for asking for time off because they would say things like, oh, your staff's going to be really upset, or like, oh, you're going to let your team down. And it's like, I don't care right now.
Yeah, like okay,
I really need, yeah. Right,
like,
right.
That's not my fault. And that's what it is, because you're short-staffed. Oh, we can't give overtime. Oh, da, da, da. But then like the people that do show up, it's like you're punishing them, right? There's like all these people that consistently call off like all the time. And then like I remember I used to have like all this PTO and like I didn't use, and then I left, and it was like just like they didn't even pay you out. Like it's just crazy. So I can't stress that enough. You have to take time off, and you can't make people feel guilty. Like it is what it is. And you don't
I think that's why. So yeah, exactly. You do have that time off allotted for a reason, right? So definitely you need to take that. And so important to see how different organizations react to those requests. Really interesting to keep in mind. But I know that the guilt piece is something that nurses face for so many different things, right? Like not just the mental health aid, but prioritizing yourself always kind of, you could really often see it paired with some sort of guilt trip, right? So,
it's right. Like, don't worry about it. Take what you need. That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. And, just wanted to, give you the opportunity too to share any final thoughts that you have. I know we're getting close to the end of the hour, but I feel like we could talk for so much longer just based on your certifications alone, which we'll bring you back to talk about your certifications.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, honestly, I'm so happy that we got a chance to talk, and I'm just so honored to have the opportunity to share like a little bit of my story and what I do as a career coach. And I just want to tell those nurses out there, like, if you are in a position that you're not happy with, you can make that change, right? And maybe you're hesitant because a lot of nurses are hesitant to invest in themselves, right? To say, well, I don't want to pay that money to get a coach or whatever, right? But again, it's going to be so worth it if you transition to a different area that you enjoy and that you love going to work, and it's going to make your life better. So this is what I talk about, like living your best life. Like a lot of times we build our lives around our work, but it's time to change that narrative and say, like, what type of life do you want to live? Like, that's what I ask my clients. And that's where we start from. Like, what type of schedule do you want? How long do you want to travel? Like, you need to be in charge of your career and like the architect of like what it is that you want to do and for your life. Because listen, like, I don't know what they talk about with like these new generation nurses, like, oh, they're always like, wanting to change jobs and, work less and make more. Yeah, we want to work less and make more. Yeah, exactly. So we can have a life, like, seriously. So this is why I'm like, even if you want to get into entrepreneurship, you can. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it. So this is why investing in a career coach is so important. I talked to one of these new grads recently, and she's like, well, I can't find a job, and I've been looking for so long, and I'm interviewing, and it's not going well, but I don't know if I want to pay this. And I'm like, well, guess what? Like, it's in New York, right? She's in the New York area. And I'm like, you're going to get minimum $100,000 if you find a position. And if you find it sooner, like, I'm saving you time, right? And in these months that you've been looking for a job, you could have already been working. So you got to think about it as an investment, and the amount that you're paying is insignificant because the value that I bring, the time that I save you, the confidence that you gain is so much more. So this is why I call it like value-based pricing, because you're going to work sooner, you're going to love what you do, and it's going to permeate into your personal life. So this is why it's so important, I think, to get a career coach. So, a lot of people will say no to me in the beginning. I'm like, yeah, sure, do whatever you want. Go ahead. And then they come back to me like 3-4 months later, and they're like, oh, I was struggling, so I'm coming back to you now. I'm like, sure, let's do this. Let's work together. So if anybody wants to find out more about my services, what I do, I'm really active on LinkedIn. That's a big one. So you can go there, and my website is Nurse Farah, and it's one R, FARAH, nursefarah.com. All my services are there. I'm also a speaker. So if you need a speaker for your event, I cover different topics that I could speak on. I'm also a writer. So if you need a blog or any articles, I'm open to that as well. And I'll be speaking at the conference in Vegas, August 3rd to 5th. It's the NNBA, which is the National Nurses and Business Association. And my topic is how to crush self-limiting beliefs and start your own business, right, in nursing. So I'll drop that link. Maybe later you can help me drop that link. I'm so excited. It's going to be in Vegas, like I said, August 3rd to 5th. And there's going to be so many other entrepreneurs there. Donna Cardillo will be there speaking, Nurse Keith.
Oh, fantastic.
Like all these
amazing people.
Yeah,
amazing.
Hey, listen, you guys should go. Vegas, right? It's not too far from California.
I'll look at that. We'll drop that link for sure. We'll take a look.
Yeah, so, doing amazing things. So definitely check out nursefarah.com or just send me a message on LinkedIn.
That's great. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Farah. And yes, definitely check out Farah's work at nursefarah.com and visit her LinkedIn. And any additional comments, or actually, Michael, any comments that you wanted to share too, any questions, or as we wrap it up for today?
Well, I just wanted to say I really appreciated this discussion. I thought it was great. I really like the way you emphasize just helping nurses develop personal confidence so that they actually have the power to choose the workplace that's the best fit for them, that works for their wellness. I appreciated you also putting forward the point of like wellness is not necessarily just like personal wellness and professional wellness, but it's like it's integrated, I think that's such an important point, and I'm just really glad that you're out there helping nurses to
Thank you.
Go towards this. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. It's such a pleasure. And, you know, I just want to, again, just like lastly, just tell nurses, because as you know, Charlene, where did you start when you first started, Charlene?
Which unit? Or
yeah, what unit, what area?
I started in inpatient. I was a new graduate resident in the Versant residency program, and I started in a critical care extension unit, which was mostly telemetry, but it was like critical care extension.
And is that what you wanted? Is that what you wanted to get?
I actually wanted, I didn't really know what I wanted at first. So, but it was available at the time. It was where I think I chose telemetry. I don't even remember, it's so long ago.
Right. So
But but I
like,
did love it. Yeah,
oh,
it
you
was
did?
great.
Good. So this is what I'm saying. Like, I meet so many nurses that it's okay. If you don't know what you want to do, that's fine. And we could work that out and find that clarity. But a lot of nurses, like I'll just, when I chat with them, some of them will say, well, like, oh, like I'm open. I wouldn't mind working in the OR and psychiatry, pediatrics, or ICU or ED. I'm like, what? Like, you just listed a whole slew of things, right? And I'm like, sometimes they just need that direction and clarity, because you don't want to end up somewhere that you don't like. And it's not like the worst thing. You could always stay and then switch. So that's fine. But my biggest goal is to empower nurses to pursue what it is that they want to do, because they're always listening to outside influences. And that's another big thing that I want to tell people is like, don't listen to negativity or other people, even in your own close circle, telling you that you can't do something. And newsflash, like, you probably shouldn't have them in your circle if that's what they're telling you, because you need people that are going to elevate and motivate you. And I'm sorry to say, like, we're humans, and some humans, I'm sorry, are just haters and jealous people and don't want to see you doing better than them. Or maybe they're scared of pursuing something and they're projecting their fear onto you. And they're like, no, you can't do that. And it's maybe not intentional, but you have to be very careful who you surround yourself with, right? So that's one. And number two, what's the worst thing that can happen? You go to wherever and you don't like it, you can always switch. But I don't want anyone to feel like they're settling. That's the thing, because like, there's no worse feeling than getting your first position or even any position and you're like, well, you know, whatever, that's what I got. And then you're like not excited to go to work. Like, I want you to wake up and be like, I'm so excited to go to work. Like, I can't wait, right? Because guess what? Your patients or whoever you serve or whatever population you serve, or even if it's leadership or in education or whatever, the people on the receiving end are going to feel that passion and that excitement, and you're going to be much more impactful than you just being like, oh, okay, I just got this job and whatever, right? And it's going to translate to your personal life, and you're just going to be your best self because you're pursuing what it is that you want to do. And life is so short. It's like, just do what you want. And that's like my message, literally.
No, I love it. That's amazing. And I think you're right. We won't always know what we want to do. I didn't really know exactly. There was some idea I had in my head, but once you start, you'll really get a better idea. And you could always change. Just like you said, there's endless opportunities in nursing, which is why I love it so much as a profession, and so many opportunities to build that career that you want and to live that life that you want. And I just want to say thank you so much, Farah, for joining us this morning. And it's been an excellent conversation. We'll bring you back to talk about certifications.
Yes, anytime. I would love to chat. And you guys are doing great things. And check out an app. They have an app with all the different things on there. And I'll see you in Vegas.
Yes, thank you so much. And just like what Farah said, we do have our app, which is now available on the App Store and the Google Play Store. So you could find us at Fifth Window on those different platforms. And then you could also check us out at fifthwindow.com. So that's www.fifthwindow.com, FIFTH window.com. And there you could find more information about our community, On our app, you'll also see this presentation today with our spotlight with Farah. So really excited about that. Yay! And so we will we'll continue to host these spotlights. So stay tuned for additional guests that we have on our spotlight. And in general, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Farah. And we hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Happy Earth Day.
Yes, happy Earth Day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.